got a CB, and people's not going to run up to you and just belittle you and make an ass out of themselves and say, well, I can tell you're a rookie by the way you're acting or the way you're dressed, so let me give you the rundown here. I mean, you know, that's just being a damn showing steed. You can't do that to people either, plus it makes you look like an asshole. But all of us older guys, all we want to do is pass the torch to you younger guys coming up. I know you guys know more about the electronics than we do, but we've adapted to it. We're just trying to share with you guys a few of the old school ways. Both the best worlds is the best way to go. The more knowledge you have, the better equipped you are.
Amen to that, brother.
That's why I keep my radio on. Alright, welcome back to SOS MBA. Now, I was listening to this radio conversation for a while, and I didn't get to film the whole thing. You know, I caught like that clip there, and it was a good one. It was good advice, and just listening to the conversations, and he was trying to, you know, he's talking to another driver. He's trying to help the other driver out so he wouldn't have an accident, and the younger guy, you know, was you know, arguing and everything else, and wasn't listening to him, and I think it all goes back to, you know, kind of what we deal with now here, the newer this generation, and I think a lot of folks that there's a lot of folks out there that, you know, it's like, well, you know, I've seen it in TV, or I've done this, or I've done that, and I ain't got to listen to you, or, you know, whatever, old man, you don't know what you're talking about, or something like that. And then usually it's come to find out it's more on point than, and hey, whoa, you know, I didn't realize you could do that. You know, I just learned something new today. And there's a lot of situations where it ends up like that, and especially when it's like in icy conditions. Now, we get snow often here in Tennessee, but it's very seldom that we get a storm like we just had. And we had one several years ago. I even did a little video for SOS. I think it was 4 years ago. We got a storm like this, and I said, you know, don't mess with Mother Nature, and you need to be prepared for it. And this all falls back to prepping, but it's an emergency preparedness type stuff. It's not just your, you know, the government's gonna, you know, take over or any other stuff. You know, it goes back to, you know, prepping for war, or prepping for this, or prepping for that. Well, I think we lose sight of the, you know, prepping for emergency preparedness situations where you could freeze to death. You know, your animals could freeze to death, and it goes back to old school ways of doing things. And I try to take every bit of knowledge that I can, and I try to listen to it a lot like what he was saying. Now, you missed this part of the little clip there. You missed this part of the little clip. I'll try and fill in, you know, the best I can with that. But he was going on about a lot of the older folks that have been doing stuff, all sorts of, you know, unusual things for so many years, manually, you know, without any kind of electronic aid or an electronic crutch. It's kind of like using maps on your phone. You know, we preppers talk about this stuff all the time, how you use a map on your phone, and then, you know, you got some little gadget that tells you where to go. You know, follow the little blue line or whatever line to get to your destination. A lot of folks don't know how to use maps and stuff like that. And that goes back to, you know, how to use, you know, you've got some sort of special tires on your vehicle, but they're not holding up in heavier conditions, and, you know, slapping the chains on in a certain manner, and yada, yada, yada. So many different things that, you know, folks don't want to, you know, they'll just push it off. I'm fine, whatever, man, you know, that kind of thing. But there's a lot of situations out there that lead into this stuff. Like folks forget, and then you remind them, but you don't be a jerk about it, and then the way you come off could come off wrong. It's people aren't going to listen to somebody that that comes up, well, come here, and starts kind of chastising them, kind of thing, and it's not going to help them in their situation, or they're not even going to want to do it. You could save someone's life just by getting them to listen to you and do it in a calm manner and in a certain way. Don't come off like a jerk. It's you could help somebody out, because here's the thing: if you talk to them you could risk someone's life. I mean, he might not want to do it your way, and he might get stubborn. People are different. Everyone's different. Some folks might take it and run with it. Some folks might take it and go, that guy's a dick. I'm not doing anything he asked me to do. And that goes back to my days in the military, when I'd ask other Marines to do stuff. As a staff sergeant, I would ask Marines to do stuff. It come off different. I came off different to folks than what some of the other folks. The other folks would just tell them to do it. You're going to do this right now. And instead I would ask them if they'd do it for me. And then you build a loyalty and a friendship, and next thing you know, they've always got your back, and they're always looking over you. And there's a better relationship involved. That's also with the road. And for a lot of you folks out there that work any kind of job you work, you notice that when you're asking folks to help you out, it's a little bit different, or you're asking folks to listen to you. Things change. They'll jump in with you, and the job will come out better than it would have if you would have just said, now you're doing this all wrong, you're being a jackass. Instead of saying it like that, he comes off different. Lessons learned, from the storm. I mean, I'm glad we gathered plenty of firewood. A lot of folks around me weren't really doing that too much, but we did. And I went off the Farmer's Almanac and said there really wasn't going to be a bad winter this year. And then I had a lot of the older folks. Now, the older folks were telling me this year is going to be bad. Something's coming, it's going to hit hard. And I took their advice, and I started chopping wood early. And I did, and I filled up quite a bit of firewood, and that got us through. So if I hadn't have done that, then when the power went out and I had to use the generator, then I would have been in a really bad pickle, because I didn't have to use the generator as much because I had plenty of firewood to keep the house warm. That goes into just, if you're in that situation where you've got a way of burning firewood, and that's something that you got to prepare for in advance. Also goes with paying attention to temperatures, having manual stuff, not just electronics. Listening to the news. We used to rely on the news for everything. Now we just can't trust them. Sometimes they get that wrong. We're just like, you know what, I'm just going to do this one. Now, I would pay attention to the temperature gauges and things like that. I got thermometers and stuff around here, and I keep an eye on that stuff to make sure. And then I can also tell when I start ending up in situations where, like, if you've got something outside, you see stuff gradually starting to freeze, it's going to come hard. And preparing your animals as well, like running something we had to do kind of last minute. You don't prepare for snow being on your solar panels. That's the other thing. And now, I didn't have any old folks telling me this and this. I'd listen to them the old school ways. Well, if you've got chickens, you've got small animals and stuff, rabbits and all this stuff. Like we've got like 50 rabbits now or something. They just sort of spawned overnight, right? But the thing is, if you got all these animals, it's like, well, how do you keep them warm? And I said, well, I'm gonna run a manual system out there. I just ran some heating lamps and stuff, and I plugged them in a daisy chain between the coops, and I got heat going to all the coops just to be on the safe side. Just did it. It was just an extra thing to do. I didn't have anything going on that day, so I figured I'd go ahead and do it. And now I have solar panels, and I was not sure what was going to happen with that, and sure enough, the solar panel blocked out. It was blocked out. It got the beeping code, and all the solar systems went down because of the snow. They were snow covered, and it also works with frost. Frost will do the same thing to a solar panel. You get a little bit of frost on a solar panel, and a little bit of ice, tiny bit of ice, and they'll shut down. It doesn't matter what grade you have, they'll shut down. It'll block them out, and then it won't charge your batteries. So you can't have an independent system with a heating system for stuff like that. I know that's totally against the whole thing, but old school method was to insulate the coop. You know what I mean? Lots of straw, lots of hay, and stuff like that. Insulate it up, and you'll be fine. Now, chickens can fend for themselves, and it goes back to another thing. You know, a lot of the older folks would laugh at me. It's like, you're doing all this stuff. You know, what would chickens do if they were out, you know, and it just came a snowstorm? They would just be in a snowstorm, right? It's like free range chickens. They can just sit outside. I didn't think much about it. We had a couple of our chickens not make it into the coop, and closed it all up. It was pitch black, and I couldn't see anything. I had snow blizzard in my face, and I couldn't see anything going on, so I missed 2 chickens. And but those 2 chickens were just fine. They huddled down. They were out there in the morning. Those 2 hens got right back in the coop, and now they're nice and warm. They like it like that. It's a nice little incubator going on, and we're about to have some hatchlings, so it's going to be cool. I'll take you guys along for that. But just taking care of the animals and stuff was just one of those things that was on the list, and helping one another, and folks not listening to other folks. A lot of stuff happens in these crazy events where everything's going on. No one's listening to one another, and no one's taking anybody's advice. And it's whatever, man. It's just like the reloading thing. When I tell folks, you know, you could do this, this, and this, and you could be reloading ammunition. You'd be stocked up, and you'd have some in a rainy day. And you know, it just goes back to whatever, man. You can just go to the store and buy that stuff. Now look at it. You know what I mean? It goes back to that. But we had so much stuff happen. I mean, it's like one of the things that I wanted to mention today that was bugging me. But this whole storm had everybody flustered, and I think what bothered me really bad was that the RDOT, Department of Transportation director for our area, had basically gotten. I have a satellite dish set up just to pick up oddball channels and stuff. I picked it up, got some local, you know, the local news. And he was on there, and he's sitting in his kitchen, at his kitchen table, in a nice, comfy little home, still drawing a paycheck from the state, still getting his paycheck, and doing his social distancing stuff. He blamed COVID. Well, he said the reason why they weren't going to run the salt trucks, they're not going to run the snow plows immediately, and you know, so people can get home from their jobs. And we were hit by this blizzard, and out of left field, just boom, slammed. And he said he wasn't going to do it because people should be at home for COVID. People shouldn't be out anyways. But what about all the other people? What about your EMTs? What about the nurses? What about the doctors? What about the firefighters? What about the law enforcement? What about... The list goes on. What about all the other folks? What about the grocery store folks? You know, filling up those sacks to give people, you know, take home, that kind of thing. What all the other people doing so many other jobs. There is more to life than that still has to go on. Even if COVID is there or not. Truck drivers are still on the road, and that's why I wanted to add that clip as well. They're still on the road, and they're still battling this crap, while somebody else just sits at home saying, well, they should be at home. Really? We should all be at home. So, well, I tell you what, director, when you get sick, you just stay at home, because everybody's at home. So you should just stay there and just be sick. You know? No, you're not. You're going to go to the ER. My wife, she got off, and the roads are coated, like hardcore. And I didn't get a chance. The cell phone service broke up. She called, and I didn't get a chance to relay the message, because I was telling her, you know, we got cut off, and she had to hit the freeway. She had no choice, and she's got a little front wheel drive thingamajigger to get home, and the truck's getting an engine put in it. You know, we're redoing some stuff with the truck. We're doing an upgrade to the truck. Basically, it's going to become a camper, and we'll do a whole video about the whole thing. That's another time. But the truck will have an update in a few weeks. But she's on her way home, and there's nothing I can do. I don't know at what point she's at or anything, and we've lost signal. We got hit hard, and we lost signal there. And I was going to tell her, walk her through, slapping the snow cables on the car so she could get home, kind of thing, or whatever. But I missed that opportunity, and she was already on the road. I just told the kids, start praying for your mom. Hopefully she gets home okay. And it's like 20 minutes, 30 minutes or something like that. I usually see her. But here it is, an hour and 15. I was getting ready to start calling somebody to see if anyone could check the roads or something to grab her. And but she had the visibility was nothing, non-existent. She couldn't see anything at one point. She had crossed an icy bridge and then ended up on the side of the road. And in the mix of that, she had plenty of snow gear and boots and all that stuff, and luckily she has all that stuff, and she had all that stuff in the back of the vehicle, and started heading home. That goes back to another thing, having all that stuff in your car. Most people don't even think about doing that. It's wintertime, what should you do? All that stuff's already in her car. She's just prepared for hiking it. So her crazy butt, she hiked Nurse Sippy, she hikes a couple of miles. I think it was like a couple of miles to get home, and she come walking up without the car. Like, what happened? There's zero visibility. The roads are toast. Like, there's like she said it was like 6 to 8 inches or something like that of snow built up, and that tiny car ain't gonna make it. Front wheel drive, that's all it is. It's not all wheel drive, but I said, well, you got cut off there, so I was going to walk you through slapping those cables on. And she said it wouldn't have mattered. She said it was so bad. She said it wouldn't have mattered if you put those things on or not. She said I still would have ended up in that same spot. She said she couldn't see anything, and the curves were starting to get tight. There's no lines, there's no road, there's no nothing. You can't see a road anymore. It's gone. It's like the roads have just gotten sucked up into the earth. But she said that was her situation, so she just pulled off. She said, you know what? I'm just going to walk home. She said at some point she had to walk backwards because the snow was so hard she couldn't see anything anyway. And then the kindness of others. I'll end it with this. I thought this was nice, and I want to just do a little kind of a video thing here. Hopefully you guys get something from this. But folks in our neighborhood, and they're I guess they're a few roads over or something like that. They were coming through with their little quad diesel or whatever, and I asked her, because she went back the next morning when the snow had stopped, but then the snow kicked back on again, and it was coming a blizzard again, second day in a row. And she's heading back to go get her vehicle, and she's like, I'm gonna go get my vehicle, I need to get it back here. I said, I can't risk losing it, that kind of thing. It's paid for, but that's us, we don't rush out and buy new vehicles or nothing like that. So most of our vehicles are used and paid for. Well, all of our vehicles are used and paid for, pretty much. Zero, that's all I didn't know. But she was doubling back to go get it, and on the adventure, she's down there, she's fiddling with stuff, trying to get the chains, the cables on, but it's stuck in the snow, it's buried, and she's having to dig it out and all that stuff. And the guy rolled by. It's like, hey, you need some help? No, I'm good, I got this. She calls me. So she's like, hey, I said, did somebody ask for help? I said, I just saw, the little thing come by. I said, yeah. I just said no. And that person doubled back and said, you need help now? It's so funny. But they doubled back and helped her out and slapped the cables on and got her back. And it was a difficult spot. You couldn't have done that by yourself. But I can't leave. You got 3 kids. One of us has to watch 3 kids. You're not going to bring them out in a blizzard. You're not dragging 3 little kids out to a blizzard and say, come on, kids, let's go get a car out of the snow. No, that's not responsible at all. But a lot of people don't know those little details, there's so much stuff that goes into this stuff. But all this fancy road control, techno, whatever crap, we got on the road and stuff, a lot of that stuff can actually cause an accident. And sometimes you got to do things manually. You got to listen. You got to do things, and a lot of this stuff that it's things that you can do, or just not just with prepping, but everything else. A lot of stuff you really have to listen to everybody else before they're dead and gone, because a lot of the older folks are dying off. And when I remember back when we were talking about groups and starting groups and stuff, and it's like, yeah, bring me your elderly. I'll take the elderly too. Why? Because the knowledge. It's so many folks say, well, the most they can do, they can't walk a post, or they can't do this, or they can't do that. Well, I tell you what, they have a lot of they have a lot of experience. They've seen a lot of stuff, and that's the kind of stuff that you need. And that's the stuff that you need to keep in mind when you're in situations, and also how you approach people is the other thing too. So don't be a jerky, I guess. But anyways, hopefully this helps you. But this is our update from our winter storm, and have a beautiful, fabulous, fantastic day. Rainbows and unicorns. God bless. Take care.